Hi everyone, my name's Arush and I'm from FTC Dome Blink 14481.
My name is Arjun, and I'm from FTC 10435.
My name is Drew, and I'm also from FTC 1435 Circuit Breakers.
Yep, and today, as you know, we have the circuit breakers on, and today they're going to walk through some of how their Skystone season went and talk about the design and important aspects of their notebook and kind of how they structure the daily logs and some of the iterations that they've gone through over the past season. I'm personally super excited for this episode because obviously Circuit Breakers is one of the more well-known teams in our community for FTC, and last year they had a fabulous season winning the Iowa State Championship, and I guess you guys can talk about that in a second. But with that being said, let's just jump right in. All right, so as always, we start off by asking, how did your Skystone season go, and can you talk a bit more about what you guys do on the team?
Well, our Skystone season, I would say, probably our best season so far. Ending off with the world record is very nice. I mean, if it got to Worlds, it probably would have been broken, but having that statement of like, yeah, we got world record last year,
Yeah,
that's cool. Um, our accomplishments, we won Iowa State championships, as you said. Um, we had a really we think we had a really solid robot that year. We didn't get to 4 stone autonomous, which is something that we would have done if we went to Worlds. So that's something we kind of missed out on.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, we were very happy with our season this year.
that's
Uh, I,
awesome.
yeah. Um, you said what roles we do on the
Yeah,
team. All right. So I am mostly lead programmer. Doing all the programming. I also dabble, or I help out with design and like meta prediction, and thinking about what's the best robot that we can make, and
yeah.
like um, fastest way to do everything. Pretty much, I enjoy doing that.
And then, I'm the technical head, technically the head of the notebook. And then, but I also help out with basically whatever's needed, or even stuff that other people don't want to do. I will also do those things.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think my favorite part about your team is how chill you guys are and how you posted all the videos early on. I think that definitely helped a lot of rookie teams.
Yeah.
Like I know I still watch a lot of videos from your YouTube channel, and it's really great to see that you guys put that out so fast. That's just a side note I want to let you guys know. But today, obviously, we're going to be taking a look at some of your the design section of your notebook, as well as some of the information you have there. So starting off with that, can you talk a bit more about can you talk a bit more about the design section and some of the iterations you've gone through over this past season?
All right, yeah. So on my screen share, this is our stone intake engineering document. So how we structure our notebook is we have our meeting notes, which is like all of our notes we take throughout meetings, and then towards like the end, towards like league championships, and like before big tournaments, we condense all of that into one big document, which is like this is what the judges look at. To get the big picture of where we started
Yeah.
and then how we got to where we ended. Um, so we start off with our summary of the stone intake, and uh, our this includes we laid out our constraints for it, and what we wanted it to do, and then kind of overviewed like how this part progressed and stuff. We always put a little disclaimer. Uh, or we put a little disclaimer here of we had a little intake video, and we're like, okay, if you really want to see it work, because we wanted to make sure the judges um we think our intake worked really well, and so we wanted a judge to see it and be like,
Yeah.
wow, that really sucks in stones real quick, and sometimes you can't show that on paper, so we put a little disclaimer down there that's like,
That's pretty cool.
come look at
Yeah.
this video. Yeah. So we just gave overview of main parts. Always see Arjun's comments.
Oh man.
And so,
No, but I think that touches upon something that's super important too. Like reading back on the notebook, I think a lot of teams tend to forget that. because like they're kind of like, okay, once it's done, we're not going to touch it again. But I think like proofreading the notebook, especially after meetings, is super important, and I know our team started doing that lately, and it's been really helpful for us. So obviously these comments show just that.
Yeah, we wanted these pages specifically just to be really polished and like full presentation, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we were always going back, and sometimes like we'd have this page written out in leagues, and then like at state we're like, oh, we need to change some stuff here because we worded it a little better. So it was always a continuous process with this document.
Yep.
Okay, I can add another thing. Oh.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so like the way that kind of is like how we even structured this document. So we have like certain sections. So like, you break apart the intake into like its different subcomponents, right? In this example. And then we go through like or as many as we can remember, every problem that we've had and like our discussion about it. And then what options we tried or like which is the one we finally went with. So like, that's kind of a conversation starter, I guess, or like how we think about writing this section. It's very problem solution focused, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you can see on the sides here. We pretty much just wrote this problem solution. So it's pretty much just, we started here with these little prototypes for intaking, and then we had these problems, and so we made a solution, and then we had another problem, so we made another solution. And then it just keeps going until we start nearing the final design.
Yeah. Yeah, I see a lot of diagrams as well. I think that's also super important, and like a lot of the diagrams also have captions.
Oops.
So I think that's something that you guys did that was really good. And I also like how you guys talk about the meta. I know a lot of teams tend not to touch upon that, but I think that's also something that's super important. So do you guys want to talk a bit more about what you were talking about with the meta predictions and how like you guys focus on that a lot?
Yeah, I can take that. So I'm always personally really interested in the meta and what teams like to gravitate towards. So I mean, typically in every game, it's always wheeled intake, and then whatever mechanism you can make that's simple but also get something from one place to the next the fastest. So like Rover Ruckus, I mean, the meta was like gluten free and Kraken Pinion, and they're like one arm out and then one arm back, and that was the fastest because you got one arm in intake, gets it right in, right back, quick transfer, and then another arm straight up. And so there's you're limiting a lot of movement there, and so that's what makes it strong. And in Skystone, we were like, okay, of course these stones, it's gonna have to be wheels and intake like it is every year, because like there's so many benefits to a wheeled intake as opposed to other solutions, just because it's like you don't have to hit straight on with an intake. You can, if two robots are going for it, like you can still have a chance to get it, whereas you have a grabber and someone like bumps a stone, then like you're not gonna get it. So yeah, we knew we had to have an intake, and then it's just a matter of, okay, now once we have the stone, what's the simplest and quickest way to get that stone out of the robot and place it, and then just find a simple solution to that is the big arcing thing of the whole game.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a note to add on with that. So like, at least especially last year, we really tried to like predict the meta. So in prior years, we've never like rebuilt our robot to copy the meta. Like we don't do, even if we like Relic Recovery, we had a grabber robot, right? Like we just made that grabber really good. But what we did, instead of copying the meta, so we saw that the meta was like dump truck and intake. So we like combined our grabbers with like wheeled intake in the front, so it wheels into our, so like even and like this year with Skystone, or last year, we added side grabbers like after teams like Technova showed. So we try to predict the like end way so that we don't have to change it and we can just like add on to it. And
Yeah.
most of the time, it's gonna be the simplest thing because simple is very easy to prototype, a lot easier to iterate on and fix, and it's usually more reliable too.
Yeah.
Yeah, simple. Our two mottos were for our team was always simple is always better, and always keep iterating.
Yeah.
So when you make a component that's simple and you try to take all the moving parts out of it and you just make something that works, like trying to think of an example. I don't know, like our grabber, our servo stone grabber. It's just a quick little on the nub. There's no complications you're gonna have there, I guess.
Yeah.
So we always strive for, like, our constraints for all our parts is, it's gotta be simple, because
Mhm.
simple tends to work better when you grind it out and you work on that, like, function of the robot for months. You can usually get really consistent, and then simple tends not to break as much.
That's definitely true for
Mhm.
first-hand experience.
Yeah, because
Mm.
like when you're driving robots all around and you're just trying to increase speed and um trying to get as many cycles as you can in the case of Skystone, like you're gonna be pushing the limits of your robot. Like you want your slides going as fast as possible, and so you can't. Like for us, we had issues with keeping our strings on our pulleys because we had to keep the pulleys loose enough so that the string would fly through it, but tight enough that the strings won't fly off.
Yeah.
And so there's stuff like that. So little things like that where if we keep it simple, you can lower failure points essentially.
For sure. Yeah. And just going back to one point, I know you guys also talked about like adapting to the meta. So I think from your team, an example of that would be like what you talked about with Robo Ruckus. Like the meta was obviously like having two separate arms, but you guys combined the meta of having like one arm that swung into the crater and then out to deposit to the lander with the exact same mechanism. And I thought that also worked super well. So like one thing to note for the rookies, like even if you don't choose to go with the meta, that's obviously fine. Like you can always find ways to adapt around it, and I think that's also super important to keep in mind because a perfect example of this is what Circuit Breakers did in their Rover Ruckus season, I think, where they just had one mechanism that scooped up the minerals and dumped them in, and that worked really well for them. I think they got 41 cycles in one of their videos. So
41 minerals, not cycles.
Oh, sorry, 41
That'd be
minerals.
Too many
crazy.
cycles.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, 41 cycles. Oh my god. Yeah, but definitely that was one thing that I wanted to touch upon as well. But anyways, can you guys talk a bit more about like your daily logs and some of the ways you structure that?
All right, yeah. So here's our meeting notes document. Oh, that's blank. So these are
Okay, to be fair, that was like the day before everything got canceled.
yeah, that's
We all
before
went like kind of
COVID. So
depressed. So I'm just gonna say that was kind of
okay, so this isn't probably a good example of notes. Once we started realizing like, oh, we're probably getting canceled for COVID, we didn't really pay too much attention to meeting notes. But all right, here's a little bit of one. So our meeting notes are pretty bare bones. It's like an Arial font, and we just write down what we're gonna do for the meeting, who was there, and then just what happened. And meeting notes for us are purely just for we're going to put them into the notebook, but we think judges are never even going to look at them. For us, they are just like keeping track of everything.
Yeah.
So either so we can look back at it for these presentations, or like I don't know if we forgot something and we're like, oh, when did we like? What was the robot like on this day? And we have a place to look back. And we put a few pictures in, and so yeah. And we just go through every day. Oh yeah, and then also
yeah.
after each meeting or after each meet, like this was after state, we always did a little table of we wrote what went well, what we need to improve on, which is part of like the motto of like we always want to keep improving, and then like what we're gonna do solutions to improve.
Yeah.
So that was also a big part of our meeting notes.
Yeah, I think one thing with this table is that I know our team does something called good, bad, and ugly. So we do something like stuff that went really good, stuff that went pretty bad we could have worked on, and stuff that was like absolutely ugly that like we needed to fix immediately, or like things we just need to keep in mind not to do for the next time. But like having these tables in, like kind of like seeing how you did during competitions, or even if you use this, I know we use this for like outreach events as well, where we talk about what went well during the outreach, things we could improve on during what we did. Like I think this kind of stuff really helps as well, because it kind of puts information into like perspective and how you can improve on that. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's really nice for after a meeting's done, it usually that's the moment when it's most clear of like, this is really what we need to do, and then you can start getting people on the task right away of like, this needs to get done, and you're on it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And our last question for the day is, can you just give one or two tips for rookies, especially considering the season's dynamics?
Arjun, you got any?
Well, I mean, it's kind of different because like the whole like notebook portfolio and all that kind of stuff. But like in general, more pictures is never really a problem, and definitely have enough pictures so if you're like looking for them, you can find them. Because like an ideal meeting notes, you need a lot of pictures because like trying to explain the certain little change that you made in words, sometimes like the judge is not going to know or anything, or even if I read it the next day, I may not even know what the prior group did. Like pictures are always useful. That's probably the best tip.
Yeah, going off of that, I would say I think the most important thing for your notebook is you want to show to the judges how you got from the start of the season and like conception to the end, your end result. That is what they want to see. So I think we did a job of it here. We start out with our like basic drawings, and then we progress all the way through until we got the end result of like whatever component we have. That's what's gonna win you awards, and that's what the judges want to see.
Yeah.
Also, do CAD because you get major props for doing it. It doesn't even have to be like I CAD'd it beforehand and then made it. Like you can make it and then CAD it, and the judges will really like that. Like, it wasn't that hard for us because our robot, like you can see here, most of our stuff is 3D printed. So we had to CAD, that, and so it wasn't too hard just to put it all together into one robot. But yeah,
Also,
CAD's very good.
Yeah. Also, I had a quick question about your slides. Those are Sanford slides, right? Like adapted from the
Indeed.
Those look really cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the black.
They are nice.
It is quite the scheme.
If anyone's gonna buy them, take the grease out of them. Just in case anyone who's watching is gonna buy them, because we had an issue where they were going slow, and we're like, "Dang, what's going on?" And then Jacob Stoffer, kid on our team, is like, "Why don't we try taking the grease out?" And they just made them super good. Like we were gonna give up on them, but yeah.
They do be less durable though, so be careful about that.
It do be less durable, but it'll last a season.
Yeah. And I also just love how you guys structured your drivetrain for the season. Like, you kind of had I think you had a really good center of gravity, but also like just the way like all of your motors fitting towards the bottom of the drivetrain and how like you used that throughout the season. I think that was super cool. But I think you guys did like one iteration of your drivetrain where you went from a lot of rev to a lot of 3D printed plus rev, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can pull up the chassis presentation, Drew.
Oh yeah, I don't have it up. Here. So this is the final version. The photo.
Kind of, not really, because the new odometry, but it's close.
Yeah. Okay, it's close enough. So yeah, our whole chassis was just 4. These are maker bars, that we bought off Amazon, and they're like a little bit better reinforced rev bar. Like if you can see, the corner of that. Usually the rev bar corners have a little hole in them that you can fit screws in, but that takes a little bit of the structure out. So these are a little bit better. Also, they're cool because they're black.
Yep.
So here, okay, well these are test spots, and then that was another test spot. I guess it's best shot of the chassis. Last year we didn't do too good of a job with pictures, but yeah, we had 2 red bars going through here. Only one going through there, and so yeah, we just started out with red bars, and then I think it was around leagues. We decided we knew what we wanted out of our chassis, and so we're like, okay, we can afford now to 3D print it because we know what all our components are and where we want them.
Yeah. I think the highlight.
And another.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, our chassis is kind of scuffed. Not gonna lie, but okay, where we're coming from is like we wanted a really low center of gravity, right? Because we knew we were gonna lift stuff high, and so like we wanted low, and so that's like this is like really low. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, our chassis is kind of unorthodox, especially since it's like reinforced with 3D printed stuff. But
and direct drive.
None of those have ever broken. So like, I think we've broken one motor mount in practice, but like
that was because the robot.
Okay, the direct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it worked. I know people give us a lot of like.
No, I
don't know what the word is.
Shade.
On like direct driving and stuff, but like.
Slack.
Yeah.
So our idea was like it worked. So like. Direct drive has worked for so long. Why would we change? Yeah.
Yeah, I think speaking of direct drive, the highlight of the season was definitely the 7 stack with the 3 wheels. That was definitely
Yeah.
Oh man, that was so funny.
That was really funny.
Yeah. I was standing there as coach, and then I didn't see the wheel fall off, and so then I was like, oh, "Why are we driving so weird?" and then I asked a Dean, he's like, "The wheel's literally off," and I didn't see it.
No, even then, I don't think that was a problem because of like how you guys did the chassis, but more so because like you bumped into the other robot and like you had that strain from the wheel pushing against the other. Yeah, but like. Overall, I really liked your robot from this season, and I think that's a good note that we can end on. So thank you so much, guys, for coming on. This has been great. You can actually follow Circuit Breakers on YouTube.
Yeah.
So let's get them to 1,000 subscribers because right now I think they're on 856, 859, something like that. Last time I checked, but you guys can definitely get them up to 1,000 subscribers. That'll be great. But we do expect some early videos from you guys, obviously, because at least I'm expecting. So that's obviously sick. You can also follow our team on Instagram and YouTube at FTC Don't Blink. And then you can join the FTC Files Discord server as well if you guys want to get help from Arjun and a lot of other people that are on there. So thank you so much, everyone. And hopefully we can continue this with other awesome teams. So thank you, Arjun and Drew, for coming on. And we'll see you guys later. All right. Bye.